Well, you know, I mean, hey, I'm trying to have faith.
Hi. How's it going? 10 times in 1 week, right?
Hey, how you doing? I met Susie at.
Yeah. Pretty good.
Okay, I did see here. Board meeting, I was there, but I don't know if I actually came up.
Okay.
And at the time, I don't know if I knew that I was gonna be working on this with you. I think I was.
Really? You become very,
I'm sure, wrangling. Yeah.
yeah, it's what it is, right? It's what it's about. Honestly, it's what it's about.
Yeah, I'm sure that we will.
Can you? Yeah.
Actually, I conference like
Special letter. Okay.
See
No response needed. Our name's on the list.
I just came back. I mean, going by 7:30. Should just write a word. Time, so this way, it's like go back. Just right here, just cut across the Richmond.
Oh,
I think it's kind of. Test run. It's on the 27th. So I got it. So, well, that's what I'm going Well, sometimes we actually have a requirement. Yeah, I remember some a few weeks ago when you guys were having the meeting about
Okay, Five, 10, in a couple minutes, we're gonna be getting started. I will be acting chair in the absence of our chair. Tonight, we had, emergency that to take care of, so I will be, providing with my colleagues here. And I'm in here. And we'll be starting in about 1 minute, okay? So we have refreshments here, for the ones that are here, provided by our coordinator here at the Coordinating Center. So you're welcome to that. I hope our presenters are here. These are staff, are they here? Well, we're going to be at their first. Yeah. Okay, so you can start. So it is now 5:10. Again, I'm Annie Meredith, and I'm standing in for our chair for tonight. With this, we'll do a roll call, and will you please sign?
Councilmember Don Gilmore. Councilmember Beverly Scott. Councilmember, an update, Marta Nieto is no longer in the seat.
Where's Martha?
Marta Nieto from Verde School.
Okay.
And her, so if anyone's interested in sitting in the, you can send an application to me, and we have turned into applicants. So our hope is to get the seat filled. I'll be calling those.
I do.
Councilmember.
Yes. Can you hear me, Annie?
Yes, we can hear you, Cardio. She is doing roll call.
Yes.
Members
So
right
good evening,
now.
Acting Chair Meredith.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh,
Councilmember King Meredith.
Here.
Councilmember Princess Robinson. And Councilmember.
We have a team. Okay, let's proceed on. So, I'm sorry. Yes.
We have a quorum,
Okay.
this is the couple number, so you have the number, they have bodies.
This is.
okay.
Okay. Don't say.
Can you hear me now, Annie?
No, she's on vacation. She's on vacation.
Okay, so let's see. So good evening, Vice Chair Meredith.
Well, excuse me, Cardio, one moment. We went through the approval of the agenda and the minutes, and then we'll open up for public comments, okay? Okay, ready.
Okay, now I'm ready.
Okay, so for this month, we're just gonna approve
I
the,
think you have to speak up with some, I don't know if they hear.
can you hear me?
I was like,
Raise your hands on the screen if you can't hear us.
Or did you?
okay. Okay, so, okay, now I'm ready.
So we're
So
doing
good e-
minutes. December minutes, what we're.
Yes, we do in December.
We,
We do in December, we will cancel, January was canceled. Due to how, the first failed, and people were still out on vacation and hadn't returned yet. So, it was canceled.
Yeah.
Chair,
and I
yes.
think we're gonna just approve the December meeting at the next meeting.
So we do not have the December minutes here, okay. Very good, okay, we'll just keep it moving.
Yeah.
Thank you, for announcing that, and then you'll have time to recall if you were here. Okay, so let's keep it moving. All right, so let's look at the agenda for tonight. Looking at the agenda, may I have a motion to accept the agenda, or this will be our working agenda for tonight?
I'm going to accept the agenda as submitted.
Thank you. We have a motion to move, and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed at this time? Any additions? Hearing none, this will agenda for tonight. Thank you. Okay, item 3, public comments. Cordell, I know you were very eager. This is your moment, 3 minutes, sir. 20 seconds has passed. Cordell,
He don't hear you, Annie.
he's off?
He's not hearing you.
He's not here? Okay. Cynthia said he's not hearing us. Could we have a show of hands probably on Zoom if you cannot hear, if you just see a motion of my mouth? Do we have a raise of hand? Then we know you're not hearing it.
Cordell actually left the Zoom. I don't see his name on there.
I can hear you, but I can't see you. I think the camera got turned off.
Okay, but thank you. Who is speaking at this time? Cordell, is it on?
Cordell is not on the Zoom anymore.
Thank you. Okay. Cordell is not on Zoom right now, so do we have any public comments at this time? If you do, please address and state your name, please.
Oh, my name is Cynthia Jordan. Public comment, I just thought it would be fitting to close the meeting out with a moment of silence for Ms. Corinne Sane. Did you hear me?
Yes, I'll just reiterate what you said. That was one of the things that we have, thank you, that we were gonna do for this evening. And while me, yes, we will. Cynthia, if you didn't hear her, Miss Corinne Sane had last month, and we had a beautiful going away for her. And Cynthia was just reminded us as a councilman and as a community of this community to close the meeting and the remembrance of her. Okay? All right. Are there any other, thank you, Cynthia. Are there any other public comments?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. This is Latifa. I am, let's see, a couple things in case some people aren't here later in the meeting. I wanted to invite everyone to Urban Tilt is having a couple of events at the North Richmond Farm this month. So we want to invite you to on February 17th to experience ebook culture with Uche. And then also there's an event called the Cookout on 2/24. Yeah, so we wanted to make you aware of those. And then the last one on 2/29 is a supper club event, and that'll be held at the Richmond High School. And you can visit our website, urbantilt.org, to register. And then lastly, I'll say I saw in the, on a different subject, putting on my North Richmond resident hat now, I saw in the packet that on the agenda is a warehouse. It was described as a warehouse. Of course, my mouth dropped open because I know that there is a permanent ban on warehouses and fulfillment centers in North Richmond. So, yeah.
Speak into your phone.
Say that again.
Better, thank you.
Much better.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what I was saying is that I saw that there was in the agenda packet a warehouse, and I said that my mouth dropped open because there is a permanent ban on warehouses and fulfillment centers in North Richmond. Yeah, so I just wanted to make that public comment, and then later in the meeting, I'll re-announce the events at urbantilt.org. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Latifa, one of the things that with the public comment is the public comment, whatever you're speaking of, I think you have just mentioned that item that is going to be presented tonight on the agenda. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, okay, well, that, right, anything with public comments, anything else, anything else other than what is going to be mentioned on the agenda tonight.
Oh, I see.
You'll have opportunity, yeah, you'll have opportunity to come to that, okay? We
Yes,
were kind of
ma'am.
missing what you were saying, but I did pick up a little of that. So if we can, let's hold those comments that, we'd like to hear from you when it comes to those comments, for the, after the presentation, or the presentation.
Got
Okay.
it. Thank you. Yes,
All
ma'am.
right, thank you. Are there any other? Okay, hearing none.
This one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
Public comment. Do I need the microphone?
yeah, now people have to hear. Yeah. Right. Thank you.
Same thing I, 6 years I've been coming to the meeting. One is the diesel trucks traveling through North Richmond. I have several different pictures, different times of the hours, all the way to 4 o'clock in the morning. Diesel trucks are coming through North Richmond, just across the tracks on Market and Chesley to go to businesses outside of North Richmond versus going down Brookside Drive and going to 13th Street. It was an incident right here on the corner where diesel trucks ran a left turn off of Market on Field Street and ran into a parked vehicle. Now they complained about diesel trucks for 6 years. To me, it doesn't take 6 years to enforce the law where it says a sign right there on Fred Jackson. Those trucks allowed. And that's going to come into North Richmond before you cross the bridge right there on Wildcat Creek. 2, the street sweep. How many times do residents have to talk to me as far as the neighbors are concerned? Street sweeping driving down the middle of the street, sweeping in the middle of the street because people are not moving their car. Now, I think I've been patient enough, whereas I've had people come to the meeting and say, well, it's manpower, low manpower. Other communities, right across the track, same thing. They don't have problems with the street sweeping and people not abiding by the rules. You can't tell me for 6 years that we can't address this problem. And I believe the last meeting y'all attended, it was suggested that you guys are gonna come up with the money to pay a company to come out here and blow stuff into the street and then have a street sweeper doing it. To me, that's being complacent. Now, I'm not an advocate for parking tickets, but 6 years, I mean, I'm born and raised in North Richmond, and we fought to get street sweeping. Now we have street sweeping, and it's not being enforced. I've even made a suggestion in several meetings that I'll take money out of my own pocket to make up flyers and pass out to every resident to let them know about the street sweeping. I believe it was the last meeting I attended in December that a letter was going to be formulated and put into the newsletter to hand out to residents to advise them about street sweeping. I understand when it comes to money and budget, but I've been coming to the meetings for almost 6 years, and I have other residents that come to me, which is the reason why they don't come to the meeting because nothing's being done. When they ask me how long I've been coming, and I'm telling them that I'm still complaining about the same thing I was complaining about since the first time meeting, that doesn't encourage other people to come to the meetings because they're gonna think nothing's being done. In regards to police being that understanding. Now, since I've been coming to the meeting, I've seen the sheriff's pickup truck that says parking enforcement on the bed. I've seen it out here 3 times. So when someone tells me that they don't have funding for it, it just goes in one ear out the other ear for me. When you become complacent, and my opinion not caring because it's not in the neighborhood, or whatever the case may be, you can't tell me that after 6 years that something cannot be done in regards to street sweeping and in regards to enforcing the law, where these diesel trucks are not supposed to be coming through North Richmond, taking a shortcut off the Richmond Parkway, going to businesses that's not even in the community of North Richmond. That's my public comment.
May I say something, Cynthia? I would like to suggest,
Okay, what did you say?
go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Could you, let Claudia know your name? You didn't introduce your name and who it. I think I mentioned that. Your name,
What is his name?
and we know that you are the image.
Yeah, my name is T. Grant. I'm the one who raised it.
Okay,
Okay,
I would like to suggest something.
Cynthia, Jordan, you had a comment, and Cynthia, could you?
Yes,
I
I
don't
would
know if,
I would like to suggest to get,
I hope you can't hear, but please speak up.
okay, can you hear me?
Real low, it's really. It's
Okay,
real
I'm
low.
gonna have to talk louder.
Hard to hear.
I would like to suggest to get in contact with the street sweeping company and find out exactly what are the duties of the person that's running the machine. Just exactly what are his duties, or either the company itself, what is the person, the driver of the machine duties? What are his duties, to drive down the middle of the street or what? And that's it.
Okay, if I may just summarize what you just said, about to find out the street sweeping company that is more or less, assigned to this area. Is that what you, is that kind of summing up what you were saying?
Yes, I can put it in the chat, but I would like to know what are exactly are the street sweepers' duties. I'm pretty sure it's not to drive down the middle of the street.
Who are, and what do they do?
And what is his assignment and his responsibilities? And what is the company's assignment and responsibilities? Maybe the company needs to reach out to Public Works so they can do their job more efficiently.
I'm sorry, Cynthia, I have, Tanya is gonna address that.
Yeah, so it is Public Works is responsible for street sweeping, and they do subcontract with a company. And it did get included in the last newsletter. We got the kind of telling residents to please move their car, and it also includes the streets and when they get like swept, so that people have like a visual that goes along with the information. And Public Works is right now doing an inventory of all the signs, the street sweeping signs, and so they're gonna fix them. And the sheriff department did agree that they would do, because of the capacity, they can't do it consistently every time, but they are gonna start enforcing. But it'll be random. There's not gonna be like a consistency to it, but random enough where people are gonna start seeing like, oh, tickets are being given, and it's up to you if you wanna test your luck, whether or not you get a ticket. So we are moving forward with fixing the signs and random enforcement, and then we send it out to every single resident in North Richmond. So, I know it's really frustrating, it's been a long time, but we are trying to move the needle, and it's an ongoing process, and we'll probably try to do this at least once a year where we send it out to every home, and if there's a sign that you see that needs to be replaced, you can always make that, you can always let me know, and I can always report that, and it'll work with me.
And just to address what Mr. Crane was speaking of, the street sweepers going down the middle of the street, that will more or less eliminate a lot of that when they start actually ticketing and towing.
Yeah.
Towing the cars off the street. And this is something that I know you said you've been here for 6, you have been here for, working at this for 6 years. But again, after the 3 years of our shut-in with the COVID, people have been very reluctant of getting back in the stroll of things, They had been ticketing and they had been pulling, but it looked like it went to the wayside. But now, you've been heard and the community has been heard and they are working on it. And I'm pretty sure once we start pulling off cars randomly, not letting know that this be your street, or this be your street, I'm pretty sure you'll see a change, okay? And thank you for bringing it up again. Okay. Yes, you may.
I also want to suggest that we reach out to the sweep cleaning company, so they can come give us an update on the progress of what they did, you know. And then for the diesel trucks, I'm wondering at what times of the day are they like coming through the neighborhood, you know what I'm saying? Because then we probably would want to know how much patrol we have available during that time, so that when the officers do come give their report back, we can see how many citations are given out to these trucks or not.
One more, and we're gonna keep it moving.
In regards to the diesel truck, I have pictures of dates and times. I need to know who do I need to send of the diesel trucks.
All right. Okay, one more, we have one more that's shown for the public comment, and he's in our audience, and I'm so sorry I didn't see him, but I'm thankful.
Hello, my name is Sean Gilpin. I'm a resident in North Richmond. And I was just wondering, I see a lot of warehouses going up around here, and I read an article breaking news that Mr. John Jr. said he was going to make North Richmond the capital of marijuana across the county. So I was wondering, is there any stipulations for people, for the community to get involved, like when they have like a, I think it's like equity program, they bring people in, basically showing the routes and stuff like that. And another thing, I think you guys is building a lot of subsidized housing. I was wondering, could you guys like building like commercial at the bottom, because it's like a lot of people in the corner just trying to figure it out. So, and we need a tax base here, so I was wondering, you know, you guys have points and stuff like that.
Okay, just briefly to address your two comments. More or less about the marijuana piece. This man, you know, it's not, that's something that has been brought to the community. We've discussed it. We're not looking forward to having a lot of grown whatever, you know, to be in the warehouse. That's out. I don't
seen
think.
and I was just seeing the top person of the district commenting on it, so I was just wondering. So.
Okay, well, we have our chief of staff here, she can get with you to address that, okay? And the retail spaces, we do have individuals, agencies that are working and building housing and mixed use housing here in the community. That's something that has to go out, and you just don't jump out and do it. It has to come through on a process. And the process with the developer to show what the community is looking for and to address that. So one of the main developers here in North Richmond since 30 years is PDC. And we have stepped up and looking at what the community wants with mixed use, okay?
Also, that's going to be on the main campus back there.
Not yet, that's still proposed, that's the proposal.
So they waiting for funding?
Well, RFP, be chosen, it's RFP selection, okay? All right, with that. Okay.
Just really quickly, look up on the City of Richmond website, it's called the Richmond Equity Program in terms of helping Black, Indigenous people of color enter that business sector, right? For marijuana or whatever. So I will look up their equity program. I know they're trying to build infrastructure for it. And there should be a lot of money spent for that, but I do know that North Richmond's permits are to the max. So I don't think it's even allowed to have growing companies or retail here. And then I also want to say that there's been meetings and a lot of things going on for the Los Deltas properties, which is a project-based housing here in North Richmond. And there are home ownership opportunities through different organizations, and I would definitely hit up Tanya Polito for all of that information, because they are looking for residents right now to become homeowners.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we get ready to move on to item 4, law enforcement. Sheriff is here. Thank you for your patience.
Good evening, my name is Ernest Kennett, Sheriff's Office, obviously. As known, I'm the resident deputy from North Richmond. With regards to the diesel trucks, so technically that's with the CHP. They are supposed to be addressing that. They did tell me there are certain thoroughways that are allowed to drive them. I don't know what the time zones are, if it's a specific time frame that they're allowed. Street sweeping, yes, it's been an ongoing issue. We have, one of the things that we continue to battle is, I've overcome a lot of stolen vehicles, just cold stolen vehicles in the park. I've also been getting a lot of complaints about cars that appear to be banned. I can't just go around towing cars as much as we want to help citizens out, but when I can, I do. I will personally tow cars. So at the same time, I'm not about to try to jam up the citizens in North Richmond trying to take a car off the street, but there is some complaints that get to the point where it's like, it's time to go to the car. So I'm trying to support the community at the same time, right? We get to a point where we're like, well, we got a car, but we're closing. So it's kind of a give and take situation. I understand the street sweeping that I've been working with China and everybody else. We are going to days. We will go out and start issuing requirements. That's it. Organizations for that particular obviously, we've been also battling the ongoing AT&T theft lines. I know for one point, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, there was I had no wireless service in the middle of Fred Jackson Market, all the way from Fred Jackson to Chesney. I had no wireless service in my car. What's happening is we've caught numerous transients. They're going through, they're literally raw daylight, they're taking saws and they're cutting the lines down. Right? And by the time we get there, they're either running away or they're gone. So it's trying to catch people in the act. We have made arrests for those. Unfortunately, they're not being prosecuted. That's not as far as trying to catch them, it's like they're trying to chase cats. They're trying to have to pinpoint that particular theft. There's lines associated with that particular person. It's a lot harder than this. But we're going to invest in that. Other than that, the crime statistics for the month of so in the month of January, there was 1 auto reported, 2 recovered stolen vehicles, 1 stolen vehicle reported, grand theft, petty theft, and other working vehicle, 1 armed robbery, 1 shell robbery, 1 vandalism.
I just have one. I just was wondering if, January 1st or the 21st, or December 1st, I just wondering what happened on Washington Market. I think there was big, something used, instead of fireworks. I'm just kind of like, I try to go outside to fireworks and it looks like something really different. It looks like you can give us what happened.
So that's an open investigation. Yeah, so that was an open investigation. There was, looks like I think 6 to 7 shell cases from gunshots. Yes. It was around, I think it was on years.
It was really bad.
There were a lot. We were kind of
So it's not just the, I'm pretty sure they first, but like we see, what we right here. So you were saying that it was gunshot That were
And fireworks.
a 505.
And they had both things, I think fireworks and gunshots. Yeah, it was bad.
The fireworks is always a challenge, right? That's the issue is, why am I so and so doing it, I can't tell you.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, that's about it.
Location, but
But as far as the gunshots, that's currently in public investigation. Can't discuss any further than that, but it's acknowledged. There were a lot of showcases we covered.
Yeah, and another thing that I want to share with you is sometimes we want to, like things happen, a lot of times we have cameras, so, in our houses or, so it's needed, I think that we can get.
Yeah, we are, depending on the situation, we try to achieve the legislation best we can. Build up to provide this.
just for our listeners on Zoom, the area that our sheriff is speaking of is in the unincorporated area at this point, okay? So I know it's kind of hard for everybody to kind of hear the dialogue between what is going on in here, but to let them know that it is in the unincorporated area, but this has been happening. And this has been seen and is now under investigation due to the shells that has been found. Okay.
Any other questions? Oh, yep, I was going to introduce, Deputy Perdigo, he's with the training, so you will see him with me, and draw you the vehicle.
Okay. Thank you so very much for your report and your service. And I'm gonna let you know. See. That's right. You're so helpful. Okay, are there anyone from the Richmond PD? Online? Code or any law enforcement? Okay, hearing none. And I'm pretty sure, well, I don't want to assume. Highway patrol? When I don't ask, he probably will be here. Okay, so moving forward, you're speaking loud enough, hopefully that are here. So we're going to, our discussion for item 5, and this is Native Law Systems Planning Permit application that was submitted in our packages, and it is now time for discussion.
So they did contact me earlier, and they originally scheduled to April. Yeah, that's why it's not included in your packet today, because they had to be scheduled to April. So then they'll be back.
Okay.
And yeah, and I'll include it in the agenda packet so people can see it in advance. And if you have any questions, I can send you the full package as well if you want to see it before April.
All right. Thank you, Tanya. Okay, so now we are on item 6 for the presentation and proclamation. 15 minutes in East Bay Mud. Anyone here? No?
Hello, everyone. How are you? Can you hear me?
You're there. I'm sorry. Okay.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having us. I am Ianad Burrell, Community Affairs with East Bay Mud. And online also with me is Susan Teefee, who will be doing the presentation. And I do want to mention that President of the Board, Lisa McIntosh, she has been on since around 5 or so, but just could not hear very clearly. A lot of the audio is very muffled. So she tried to really listen in for about 30 minutes and just really could not hear what was going back and forth. So she has logged off. We are going to move forward with the presentation. So I'll start with a short intro. Richmond was the epicenter for the defense industry in the East Bay during World War II. That included buildings, housing for defense workers. For these homes built between 1941 and 1945, East Bay Mud had to install lead pipes because steel and copper were unavailable. We have long since replaced the lead lines with copper, but now the Environmental Protection Agency has asked us to go back and check the lines connected to these homes to see if there are any residual lead through galvanized pipes. And actually, if you can scroll back to the very first slide, all the way up to the beginning, all the way up. And I'm just giving an intro and then Susan, perfect, perfect. So in closing of the intro, this presentation will share more details about these pipes, how we are checking connections, and how we will reach out to residents should we find any old connections. Also, we want to make sure East Bay Mud customers are informed about how the lines are being checked so they can identify our contractors specifically. We want to make sure that we want to do everything we can to reduce the risk of people using this program to scam residents or enter into their homes. So now I'm going to turn it over to Susan Teefee, who is our manager of water quality, and she will take the presentation from here.
Thanks, Enad. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Great. Great. So this is the agenda for what I'm going to present today. So and Enad went through all of this. So we'll talk a little bit about the history really briefly, and then talk a little bit about lead testing and how that works. Can you scroll to the next slide? Okay, so first of all, it's important to understand a service line, what that means. This diagram here shows the street is kind of on the left, or sorry, I'm looking at it on the left. I'm not sure if it's, yeah, it's on the left, the black part. East Bay Mud has big pipes under the main, usually under the streets. And then there are small pipes called service lines that carry the water from the big pipes into individual homes and businesses. And that red circle is around a water meter box, which is usually somewhere in between the pipe in the street and the business or home. Okay, the next slide, please. So if we zoom in a little bit on that red circle, the pipes that are under the street and the service line that goes from the pipe into the meter box and the meter itself is all owned and maintained by East Bay Mud. And then from the meter box into the house is what we refer to as the house line or the customer line, and that's owned by the property owner. And that goes generally under a front yard and up. There's what's called a house riser. There's usually a hose bib on the outside, and that goes into the house. So that piece of it is owned by the property owner. Next slide. Like Enad said, during World War II, there were thousands of homes built in the Bay Area. There were major shipyards, naval facilities. Richmond proper, I think I read that the population between like these years, 1942 and 1945, went up by fivefold. It was just a huge influx of people that moved in. And at the same time, materials like copper and steel were all used in the war effort. They were not available to be used for water service lines. So during those years, 1942 to 1945, East Bay Mud installed lead service lines on the public side, on the East Bay Mud side, to serve those new homes. All of those lead service lines have since been removed. But so this is just the history. Next slide. We have pretty good records about where these lead service lines were. This map shows kind of it's what's called a heat map, a density concentration. So where the dots are red and orange, they're closer together. So there's a lot of homes in Richmond, in San Lorenzo, in San Leandro, that were just dense concentrations of houses that were built during that 42 to 43 time period. The highest concentrations or the highest numbers were in Oakland, and then Richmond, San Leandro, San Lorenzo, and San Pablo. Next slide. This table here shows the number of the district side lead service line locations by city. And also because materials were in short supply, a lot of times there'd be a single service line that would branch out and serve more than one water meter. That saves materials that way. So what that means is that when you take the branching into account, there's almost 10,000 customers today that are in these, that are served by these lines that were formerly lead. That's this 9,829 number at the bottom of the table there. Next slide. So this graph shows when they were removed. The x-axis along the bottom is decades. So it starts at 1930. It's a little hard to read there, but it goes 1930, 1940, 1950, all the way up to the present. And the line shows the number of lead service lines that were in service at any given time. So we didn't have any up through the 1930s. And then that 1942 time period, 43, sorry, came and we installed roughly 7,000. And then pretty much as soon as copper was available after the war, we started pulling them out. So by about 1970, 97% or half of them had already been removed. And then by 2000, we were up to 97% removed. In the last 5 or 6 years, we've done a more intensive manual search of all of our records, and we are quite convinced we've gotten the last of them out. At this point, there's none left. Next slide. So this is why we're here. We have these new federal regulations. EPA has made some changes to what's called the lead and copper rules to better protect the public from the risks of lead. We have an inventory requirement. So we have to create an inventory of all of our service lines, which we've already done, but these new regulations require us to include in our inventory the material on the customer side. And that is something that we don't have records of. That's homeowner or property owner information. But nonetheless, we still have to create that inventory. And there's a new category of pipe that EPA needs us to collect information on that they call GRRs, which is galvanized requiring replacement. That's the abbreviation that they use. And the definition of a GRR is a galvanized line that is or ever was downstream of a lead service line. So even if it is galvanized today and it was downstream of a lead service line in 1945, it's considered a GRR under these new regulations. Next slide, please. So what does that mean for us? Despite having removed all of these lead service lines, we still have requirements under this new lead and copper set of regulations. We have to identify all the GRRs, and we have to notify the customers that are there today that are drinking water from these pipes. And there's some mandatory language that has to be included in that notification that includes information about the health risks of lead. Next slide. So a little bit about galvanized pipes. If you're not familiar with that, they're iron or steel, basically ferrous materials that have a protective coating of zinc. And that works really well until the zinc is gone, and then the iron will corrode. So if you've ever seen old metallic type piping, oftentimes they used to be galvanized in a sense. They used to have zinc coating on them, and the zinc is gone after a number of decades. They're not commonly used today. We don't have any records of them being used past the 1960s, but there are still a lot of them out there still. And in some circumstances, the lead from the lead pipe can come off the lead and form a lead-bearing scale on the inside of the galvanized pipe, which can later then be released into the water even after the lead pipe is removed. So that's why EPA is including these galvanized requiring replacement in this lead set of regulations. Okay, next slide. So like I said, we don't have information about the customer side materials, so we are going out and doing field confirmation. We hired a contractor. They're called Alisto Engineering, and we basically gave them a list of all these addresses, and they're going to go out and visit all 10,000 of these homes and businesses and do a visual inspection at the meter box and at the riser and determine what the materials are on both sides of the meter. The customer side for our inventory development, but also just as a quality check on our data on the East Bay Mud side. More than 90% of these inspections are done without bothering the customer. It's just sort of like reading the water meter or delivering the mail. It doesn't require any interaction with the customer. But in case there is a customer who's interested in what's going on, we prepared these informational pamphlets that describe what the contractors are doing. That pamphlet is on our website, and it's got translations into Spanish and Chinese on it as well. So overall, it's going to take us between 1 and 2 years to go out and visit all 10,000 of these former lead service line locations and identify the materials. So we're planning to be done by the fall of this year of 2024. Next slide. So as I said, we have to notify these customers by law. That notification has to be done within 30 days of completion of the inventory. So our inventory has to be done by October. So all of our notifications have to be done by November of 2024. And we are roughly seeing about half of them are galvanized as we go out and inspect them. So we're anticipating sending out around 5,000 letters throughout our whole service area. And we don't want to do that in November of 2024 because that would just overwhelm our customer service reps and excuse me, our staff that will respond to the calls. So we're spreading this out over this roughly year-long period. So we have to do an initial notification, and then we have to do an annual notification until that GRR is removed. And then we also have to do an event-based notification. So for example, if we replace a water meter or we do something to disturb that line, there's a potential that if there are lead scales there, they could get dislodged and find their way into the water. So in the case of a disturbance, we have to contact those customers and let them know what's going on. I want to emphasize they're private property. We don't have any control over what's on the customer's property. So this is really an informational program on our part. But I'll show some data here in a minute, but our data that we've been gathering indicate that the lead levels in these pipes are very, very low. So we really don't think this is a problem from a public health standpoint. And I want to emphasize that we are very aware and concerned about the health effects of lead, but the data in these cases, these GRR lines, these galvanized lines that used to be attached to lead, don't seem to be producing any lead in the water. And I'll show you some data to support that in a minute. I wanted to put this up here. This language in this blue box is mandatory language that EPA requires us to put in the letters that we send to these customers. So it describes the adverse health effects of lead, and lead is toxic. We know that. We are sort of putting a lot of effort to make sure that no one gets exposed to lead in the drinking water. Next slide. So this is the data that I was talking about. This is a lot of information on one graph, but basically we've been taking a lot of samples from customer taps for the last 30 years or so. Each one of these, this is what's called a box and whisker plot. So it's a way of showing hundreds or thousands of data points in a summary kind of way. Each one of these boxes kind of brackets the upper and lower quartile. So 25% of the data and 75% of data are within that box. So it's just a way of summarizing what we're seeing. And moving from left to right, that blue box, these are lead concentrations, I should say, on the height of the box. So back in the 90s, when we still had some of these in service, we were sampling from them. and they do have lead in them. So the 90th percentile, so the value at which 90% of the data is less than for that actual lead service lines before we took them out was around 8 parts per billion. And for comparison purposes, EPA is now proposing to lower the action level, which is kind of the maximum allowable level that we can see, down to about 10 parts per billion. So still less than the action level, but not a good amount. You don't want to have 8 parts per billion of lead in your water if you can avoid it. The orange bar is copper pipes with lead solder. And we do see that the lead solder that attaches the copper pipes will sometimes come into the water. But again, those numbers are quite low, the 90th percentile of that data set. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I think it's around 4, something like that. And then moving all the way over to the right, the green bar that's hard to see, and I think it's a dark purple bar. Those are the GRRs. That's what we're talking about here. The galvanized requiring replacements. We now have I think we have about 400 samples from those homes right now, and they're all very low, less than 1 part per billion. So we don't think these are a health risk, but there are situations in other parts of the country where they are concerning. So I just wanted to kind of try to put that in context there. We do occasionally see when we have customers work with us to take samples, we do occasionally see high numbers, and they're almost always from an old faucet. Faucets made before 1986 could still have a fairly significant amount of lead in the brass. And so older corroded faucets are notorious for putting lead into the water. We have yet to see any situation where the elevated lead concentration is linked to the service line. It's almost always something within the home. Next slide. So what can you do? What would you expect a customer to do if they get one of these letters? Call us and we'll test your lead for free. We will send you a kit. The highest concentration of lead, if there is lead, is going to happen when the water's been sitting stagnant in the pipe for a long period of time. So we send you instructions on how to wait and let that water stagnate in the pipe, and then fill up a sample and send it back to us. It's postage paid. We follow up on all elevated results. If there is lead in the water, one of the easiest thing to do is replace or clean out the aerator. Inside of a faucet, there's often a little screen. And if there is particulate lead and it lodged in the screen, it's relatively easy to take that aerator off and clean it out or replace it. Like I said, the highest concentration happens when the water is stagnant for a long period of time. And so first thing in the morning, rather than taking a first sample of water to drink, you could wash the dishes or do laundry or take a shower, do something else with that water. And then when the water's been fully flushed, then take a sample for drinking. And if you want, you can put that in a pitcher and store it in the fridge for later on in the day. If there is lead in the sample result, and you're concerned about that, you can use filters. There are pitcher filters that are available that are very effective for removing lead from water. It's important to know that lead doesn't get into your body through your skin. So things like bathing or washing are fine if there is lead in the water. Boiling does not remove lead. If you have, and we've worked with customers on investigations like this, if there is one particular old faucet that is repeatedly coming back high for lead and the other faucets in the house are fine, you can replace a faucet. And we do have a program for our CAP customers, our customer assistance program, low-income customers. We can help with faucet replacement. And if the lead is coming from the old galvanized iron pipes, certainly replacing pipes is an option. So I think one more slide. So just to summarize, we are reaching out to customers to do these inspections and identifying these galvanized pipes. We've got some mandatory language that we have to include in the notification, and it's pretty alarming language. And we're trying to partner with cities, counties, and local groups in the area to help customers understand the risk and understand what they might be able to do about it. So I think that's all I have, and I'll happily take any questions if anybody has any. Oh, I should probably give you a status. We are about, I think 65 or 70% of the way through the inspections right now. And we've sent out probably, I'm not exactly sure. We've sent out a couple thousand letters already. We are seeing about, not much, 3 or 4% of the customers are calling us and asking for lead samples. And we've been turning those around relatively quickly. So we're keeping up with the workload. The samples in that customer what we call our lead voucher program are all quite low. Like I said, the 90th percentile of that data set is less than 1 part per billion. So it's looking, it's confirming what we are pretty sure we already know. There's just no lead that's coming out of these galvanized pipes. Questions?
Thank you.
Hi, Susan. This is Latifa. I wanted to ask you, so in the different cities that you had listed, you did not have North Richmond listed. You had Richmond, but not North Richmond. So I just wanted to inquire, is unincorporated North Richmond included in your in what you're talking about?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the bulk of them were in Richmond proper, but I'll check on that. We've got a list of addresses. I'll double check, but I don't think so. I think it's all Richmond would be the closest in San Pablo.
I think that's a question I asked last time. The presenters were here, what about 3 or 4 months?
We can't
hear. Yeah, can you speak up a little bit, or can someone repeat that question?
So I do see a hand from Johanna.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. This question is for the folks here from EBMUD. You did mention partnering or potentially partnering with community organizations or community groups. Does EBMUD currently have any grants or technical assistance funding for like community partners to be able to do some of this community outreach work?
At the moment, no, we do not have any grants in terms of doing outreach. If it's something that can happen in the future, I'll put my email in the chat and you can stay connected with me if that's something that comes up.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
So before we go any further, I'm just checking with council, you have any questions at this point, and then we're gonna open it back to community. Okay, I don't have too much questions. My reactions really are thank you for any development. Glad that y'all are on to the inspection process.
So Annie, I'm sorry, Annie, we cannot hear.
Can't hear, yeah.
Don't hear me now? Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. No real questions, just a reaction. Thank you for maintaining your water pipes and developments, and that's really good to know that you are almost done with your inspection. I just had a regular question. When you are doing your inspection, is there like noise that happens? Is there a lot of noise when you're doing that inspection around the residential property?
If I understood that correctly, are you asking if there's noise associated with the inspection?
Yes.
Yeah, probably not. If the meter box is clean, and it usually is because we read them every other month, the contractor will just open the top and take a look in there. They may use a magnet to see, because a magnet will stick to galvanized pipe. It won't stick to copper, and they may have to dig around a little bit if there's some debris in there, but no, it shouldn't be noisy at all.
Okay, that's great to know. And then, yeah, one of the community members said that unincorporated North Richmond wasn't a part of the second inspection or study. So it'd be great to see those homes if they were affected by that.
Yeah, are you asking about a particular home or just North Richmond in general?
Okay, she's asking about North Richmond in general. That was-
Okay.
Yeah, that was one of the questions that was actually, when we had the presenters from East Bay Blood here about, I guess about 5 or 6 months ago. And they did a presentation, and one of the things that also that I noticed that from looking at the location of the graphs, they indicated who the service lines and who that they had was checking for the oldest properties that had hospital lead piping. And a lot of the homes that were built in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, those had already been eradicated through their testing and going through and changing the pipes at that time. The question was the inclusive of the unincorporated area. And I see that you have a total of Richmond 2,400 individual 2,400 properties that has been looked at or are going to be looked at for these galvanized piping. And seeing the quantity, if it's high in lead or if it's a phosphorus or zinc has disappeared or so forth. So with that, the inclusive part, North Richmond, the unincorporated part has been part of this study. This is what we're asking. Richmond in period. North Richmond, West Richmond, Richmond period. Is that the title that is being shown here, inclusive of the 2,400?
Yeah, I'd have to check, is the short answer. I don't know what the designations or where the boundaries were in that 1942 to 45 time period. I can tell you, we have a list of the addresses. And we can certainly look up individual ones, but I don't know off the top of my head. That table in the presentation was the list of all of the cities, summarized. So even there were some cities that just had, I don't know, 5 or something like that, small numbers. And I don't recall there being anything in any cities that weren't on that list. So, but I can double check that.
And just to add on what has been mentioned before, looking at the high numbers, as even looking at the map, and we're looking at San Leandro and Hayward. And when was that, when was the study actually started then? And that's probably gives us the idea when they started looking at the pipes. Was it really started like 31 years ago? From my calculation, like 31 years ago, and they had been monitoring. And I guess they've been actually ratifying who and what needs to be cleared at this time, or it was a low monetary or nothing to be concerned of. So just the date when it was started, along with looking at Richmond, looking at San Leandro, and looking at Hayward. They are concerned.
Our oldest data, customer tap sample data, is from about 1992. Those are the oldest ones. Those were to a large extent actual lead service line. That was before they were all removed. So between every year and 3 years, we've been taking at least 100 samples from customer homes that either have, if we had them, lead service lines or copper pipes with lead solder. This more focused study that we're doing right now, looking at the galvanized pipes, that started, I'm not exactly sure, within the last 2 years. This is much more recent, since EPA has issued these new regulations concerning these galvanized lines. So we don't have data back from the galvanized lines. We don't have that data back from decades ago.
And I have one other, and just one other thing. I know we're looking at homes. We're looking at individual residencies, but also we have constituents that use public facilities, water, drinking water. What are the guidelines for looking at different structures that may have old pipelines that need to be looked at? I know that this is something that we have more or less individuals certain individuals to go out and do the work, but have you been looking at, different larger buildings where people, public places where we go in and out, possibly drink water, use water, facilities that use water in our for cooking, you know, different other, businesses? Where are you with those? You know, is that in the study also, or we're just looking at, private homes at this point?
Sure, sure. This current study that we're doing is really looking at, it ends up being private homes. Sometimes they're split, there'll be like 2 or 3, you know, separate units, but that's because the lead, there never were large lead service lines. They were all pretty small, like about 1 inch in diameter. And generally larger buildings have larger service lines, and those just weren't ever made out of lead. Those were usually steel or cast iron or other materials. So that wouldn't really be incorporated in this lead study because there just weren't large ones.
Very good. That which is sure that, you know, because people do use water and they do cook, you know, in different facilities, and you know, you don't know what type of lead you get in the water. But very good.
Yeah. And if anybody in the service area, whether it's a multifamily unit or a single family, doesn't matter. If you have a concern, you think there might be lead, just give us a call and we'll test it.
Okay. Because I just want to throw out there, I know at one time, a lot of schools had a lot of old piping, and they had shut down, you know, for individuals to drink the water out of those, you know, out of those facilities. So I just want, you know, just to bring that up and see where we're at with that. Okay, are there any more questions? Yes.
Yes, I just have one question in regards to the galvanized piping. If a homeowner finds out that there's unsafe concentrations of lead within that pipe, is eBay Mud providing any type of assistance if the pipe within the home needs to be replaced? Because I know my neighbor personally has galvanized pipes in her.
Yeah, we don't have any capability to do that. We are legally required to stop at the meter. That's where our access ends. Yeah.
Okay, are there any others?
Yes, I have one. It is a reduce to sample the water.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one?
The test that you use to sample the water, to test the water, do they are like, we have to request them from the company, or are they available every, available, you know, in, public site? Or do we have to request to get our test?
Right, if you feel, right, if you feel that you want them to come out and sit, if you have any, yes, so contact them when they can come out and sit.
The question I think is if there's another option aside from calling them to come and test the water. Is there like a kit or something that can be purchased or, you know, picked up like a community center as a resource for home owners to test their own water?
Can someone repeat that for me? It's not picking up by the microphone.
The question that the young lady had was, aside from calling you and asking you to come and test the water, is there other options for homeowners to maybe pick up a kit on their own somewhere, maybe purchase it or pick it up at a community center for them to do the test themselves, or is the only option having you come and test the water?
Yeah, you can certainly test the water yourself, or go, you know, there are, I would suggest if you are going to go find a lab, make sure it's a certified lab. There are less reliable test kits that are available, but they aren't really very valuable. You may or may not get an accurate result. To get an accurate result, it does unfortunately cost some money. But there are the state board, the state water board maintains a list. They have a thing called Environmental Laboratory Accreditation Program, and they test and certify laboratories for for analysis of drinking water. And they have, they publish a list of available labs that you can go to, and you can use one of those labs, certainly. Our lab is ELAB certified, and they do a lot of internal quality checks to make sure that their data is reliable and accurate.
Okay, well, thank you so very much for coming back again and keeping us informed what's going on with this survey within our community and other communities. We welcome for you to come back again and to let us know how very close you are finishing up with this survey, and hopefully that we get it down to very, very low of not seeing any type of residuals at this point. So with that, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Okay, very good. Okay, next on our agenda, we have, I don't lost my page here. What did we get?
North Richmond.
Oh. BTXC and EPA.
Thanks for the opportunity to present an overview of the cumulative impacts project for the North Richmond area. I'm Dwayne James, Director of the Laboratory Services and Applied Science Division at EPA Region 9. Joining me tonight also I have Asha Seti from the Department of Toxic Substances Control. So the North Richmond Cumulative Impacts Assessment is a collaboration between EPA Region 9 and the BTXC. We're in the very early stages in planning this assessment, so this presentation is a high-level overview. This collaboration with BTXC is the result of discussions between Martha Guzman, the EPA Regional Administrator, and Dr. Meredith Williams, BTXC Director, regarding potential opportunities to collaborate with the community on conducting cumulative impacts assessment. Community engagement and addressing disproportionate environmental burdens in underserved communities is a high priority for the Biden administration, BTS, and EPA. Next slide, please. The other topics I will cover tonight was the cumulative impacts, the recent focus on cumulative impacts assessments, why North Richmond, the benefits, and an upcoming informational meeting on February 27th. Next slide, please. So what are cumulative impacts? So this definition for cumulative impacts was developed by the CAL EPA Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment back in 2010. And the definition recognizes that in determining cumulative impacts, the combined emissions from all facilities need to be accounted for when assessing exposures to surrounding communities. It further recognizes that socioeconomic and demographic factors also need to be considered. To help illustrate this definition, let's consider the following scenario. Next slide, please. Okay, oh, you don't have it in. Okay, that's fine. Imagine a facility where a community where facilities granted a permit to manage of waste. The associated emissions from the facility may create environmental and health impacts to that community. In this example, you have different facilities that are permitted, and you have a community where it's surrounded by two heavily trafficked freeways that are constantly used by commuters and diesel fuel semi-trucks traveling to and from the shipping center. In this example, the cumulative impacts on this community are combined effects from the facilities and traffic as experienced by the community. The overall result of these historical decisions regarding the facilities and freeways is the creation of an overburdened community which represents an accumulation of impacts. These historic decisions become relevant considerations to the current and future decisions that are being made regarding the community. Next slide, please. So cumulative impacts assessment is a flexible process that helps communities and decision makers collaborate to identify potential accumulated environmental and health effects of past and current regulatory decisions. It explores how these historic decisions have led to undesirable effects on communities due to various factors such as income and race. The results are recommendations to support decisions that maximize environmental and health benefits and minimize risk. I'll speed up. The graphic shows the general steps of a cumulative impact assessment. These steps will be described later in the presentation. Next slide, please. Since taking office, the President has issued 4 executive orders and guidance requiring federal agencies to address inequities in underserved communities. I'm not going into details about each of these executive orders, but in general, they stress community engagement as a very important aspect of how agencies go about addressing inequities. The North Richmond Cumulative Impact Assessment will be a community-driven process as we directly engage with North Richmond residents to hear about their lived experiences to inform this assessment. So, in response to Executive Order 13985, EPA developed and released its Equity Action Plan in April of 2022. Some key priorities in the plan are for EPA to develop a framework for considering cumulative impacts of EPA decisions, build communities' capacities to share their lived experiences with EPA and to initiate and lead community projects, and for EPA to develop internal capacity to engage underserved communities and act on community impact. Next slide, please. California has also passed legislation addressing disadvantaged communities and how departments like DTSC and the other boards, departments, and offices are to respond. Next slide, please. So the North Richmond Cumulative Impact Assessment. So it's going to directly involve the community, support enhanced regulatory efforts, inform future policy decisions. And as I mentioned before, it's a collaboration between EPA, DTSC, and the community. EPA has also provided funding for contractors to help facilitate community engagement. So why North Richmond? There are 8,035 centers tracked in California. The highest overall coronavirus screening 4.0 percentile for Richmond is North Richmond. And that's based on a number of factors which I will share very shortly. But some of the other considerations are just the key indicators that speak to the North Richmond community, permitting hazardous waste facilities, and some upcoming hazardous waste facility permit actions and decisions. Next slide, please. So coronavirus screen is California's mapping tool that helps identify California communities that are most affected by many sources of pollution. The scores are mapped so that different communities can be compared. An area with high score is one that experiences a much higher pollution burden than areas with low score. So the coronavirus screen score is based on 21 indicators that are grouped into 4 categories. So just visually, you can see that environmental conditions are blue, contaminated sites are in orange, health conditions are in green, and social vulnerability is in light brown. Next slide, please. As you can see for North Richmond, the overall percentile score is 96, signifying how overburdened the community is. And if you just take some of the 21 indicators and just kind of pop them out here, you can see North Richmond is in the 80th percentile for lead in housing, 99th percentile for cleanup sites, 99th percentile for hazardous waste, 97th percentile for solid waste, 94th percentile for linguistic isolation, and the 75th percentile for poverty. Next slide, please. So there are 4 permitted hazardous waste facilities in the North Richmond area. Chevron Chemical will have a permitting decision later this year, and Veolia Richmond will have a permitting decision in 2025 or 2026. The last permitting decision for Chevron Refinery was in 2020, and for the West County landfill in 2022. Next slide, please. So this is an overall timeline for this effort. We've already done the Cal Enviro Screen analysis and also using EJ Screen, which is an EPA tool. We're currently entering into a subcontract with a local community-based organization to help this partnership in terms of providing a lot of logistics support and also technical support. So that will be done this year. And then we get into the assessing phase, which is to conduct the impact assessment. That's going to be informed by a number of community outreach and meetings, which will be happening this year, leading to a draft document by the end of this year, and then which we hope to finalize in 2025. And the whole idea is this document will be a framework for the community's leadership to work with agencies to keep track of environmental conditions and to make sure that progress is being made. Next slide, please. So the objective of the cumulative impact assessment, which is on the slide here, is to really one of the key aspects of it is to identify the planning, regulatory, and decision-making bodies. Many times you find that government agencies work in a siloed fashion, so the whole idea here is to really change that approach and create more of an integrated partnership amongst all regulatory and decision-making bodies to address issues of concern to the community. The second point is about ground truth in the existing data with community concerns. It's not simply just using the Cal Enviro Screen data and information, but actually meeting community members and hearing their concerns. Like the gentleman mentioned tonight about trucks coming through the neighborhood at odd hours of the morning. So EP and DTSC will use the final result to enhance hazardous waste specific permit decisions, what each DTSC has the lead for. It will serve as a gateway for ongoing community engagement and help to inform future cumulative impacts considerations. Next slide, please. So just wanted to announce that we are going to be meeting with community-based organizations later this month. We've sent out invitations, and the idea is it's actually going to be held here, I believe, in this venue, and to start engaging with the CBOs, and then from there to have them advise and guide us in terms of how do we reach out to the broader community in North Richmond to get their input and to really hear about their lived experiences to help inform the cumulative impact assessment. And I think the next slide is just if you have any questions.
Okay, couple of questions. So you're saying to support regulations, I think somewhere in your presentation, to support regulations that come out of it and to act on the community's input, right? Like what is going to be coming out of this assessment? Is it anything like, oh, we're gonna, out of this assessment, we're gonna be able to tell Chevron to lower the emissions? And what is actually gonna be coming out of this assessment and like supporting? That's one. And then when you should get the assessment and you get the proposal, who's gonna take on the brunt of the work? Is that gonna be EPA? Is that gonna be distributed to the CBOs to keep monitoring this work or something like that? And then I'll let you answer those questions.
So the first question about what's going to come out of the assessment. So what we will be doing is essentially gathering information to see exactly what are the concerns. Many times, when you talk about permits, regulatory agencies will say, well, I have no jurisdiction for this issue. What we are hoping to do is to have convene all of the agencies that have some sort of regulatory or decision-making authority regarding a particular facility. So if DTSC, for example, is working on a permit issue, to the extent that if there are other things that could be incorporated that another agency may have, then we can, yes, we can reach out to that agency and say, hey, here's what we heard and learned from this assessment. What can you do using your jurisdiction to take some action to help improve the conditions at that facility? So to be a lot more coordinated, and it's not like, well, that's not my jurisdiction, so sorry, I can't help you. We're trying to really take this a step further. And that's kind of going back to the presidential executive orders, which is about community empowerment, how to really engage and to provide much more opportunities for communities as well as regulators to work together hand in hand to find solutions. And the thing about having the community involved in, when all is said and done and we talk about and we get information, the communities might say, well, you know, okay, we understand you can do this or this can be addressed, but we see that you can work in this area with, and getting that type of consensus is a way of also trying to take a path forward. And hopefully down the road, there could be other things that could be done. The second question was,
yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna suggest that encourage maybe that you research other studies that have already been done. I think that the chief wants to the general plan update and finally has a lot of, information there. And then I'm just really not a fan of studies because you can walk right outside and see what's wrong with the community. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we're gonna do another assessment when we know what's wrong and there's no real, I guess, concrete things that are deliverables that are going to be coming from the assessment is what I'm seeing. It seems like for the most part, you're going to be playing the middleman, right? Which is coordinating between us and these government agencies. When these government agencies should be coming to us, it shouldn't be the other way around. That is my answer.
Thank you. Anyone else before I get started? There's people on we have a couple. Okay, you have a couple. I think it's Latifa. And after Latifa
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. This is Latifa. So, I was getting a little jealous because I saw Michael Regan like touring the southern states. So I'm glad to see that you all are here in North Richmond. But my first thought was basically what Princess just said. There's been a lot of assessments, and you already know that the Cal Environment score is in the 90th percentile. So my hope with the EPA coming, I was thinking that if they did come this way, that they would already know what was happening based on and then be able to give us some concrete solutions. And it's interesting that you're doing this with the DTSC because they told us out of 9 criteria that the community engagement was not heavily weighted. So, but anyway, I just want to say that there have been a lot of studies done. And really the next step for me would be to see something actually implemented and for the community voice to actually have some weight because I think we've already given lots of recommendations, and it seems as though that they could just be implemented rather than doing study after study. That's my opinion. Thank you.
next is I can't see it. Johanna?
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for giving your presentation. Again, this is great and all. I think we welcome a study done by the EPA alongside the DTSC. I think that would carry a lot of weight, but I echo a lot of my community members' concerns around this. I have a few questions of the policy recommendations that will come out of this cumulative impact assessment. Which of them are enforceable, first of all? Second is, how do they protect residents and center residents when decisions are being made at the county level? And can the EPA reverse or advise on a decision that is being made from the county, for example? And then I have another question around if there's collaboration or communication between the EPA, the DTSC, and like county departments that make decisions around development and that allow for these permits for these heavy industry corporations to exist. And so is there communication, and how is this impact assessment going to be different from any of the other ones we've had historically?
Did you want him to answer any of that?
Yes, please, if he can.
Mike.
Thanks for the question. The question about how is this study different, and that's one of the things that we acknowledge, that the North Richmond area has been studied a lot, and we don't want this to be like another typical study. That said, what we're doing is, by not coming with solutions right now, we really want to hear from the community. Many times, agencies come with a solution, and that's not really informed by what residents really want. We are hoping that this could be a partnership where communities are at the table with the decision makers to talk about what solutions can we work on together to effectuate the change that we want. So that's kind of the approach that this is going to take. It's in terms of coordination, we already reached out to the Air Resources Board, we've reached out to the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. We know that there are a number of ongoing studies that are underway, so we're actually trying to make connections to see what we can do or how we can partner or how that can help our efforts here. We're trying to be very coordinated. We've also been working with reached out to the Contra Costa Health District in terms of getting some ideas and suggestions on what we need to be focused on. So as I mentioned, this is really in the beginning stages. I just want to make it sound like we've come in for solutions that we're about to implement. We want to also get feedback and input from the community in terms of what solutions do you want to see, and how do we work together collectively to effectuate those. So it's a work in progress, but at the same time too, I think what I want to convey is when it starts from the executive orders from the president, and the EPA is also going to be giving us a lot of grants to help communities undertake projects in their neighborhoods and so on. It's a full complement of different activities underway that collectively are moving in the direction of trying to change the course that has been set in place, where we have these historical decisions that have led to these types of impacts. And we're all trying to change the course so that we can move together collectively to find those solutions. Some things might not change overnight. I'm not here to make those types of promises, but I think if we can collectively work together, start reducing the impacts that have already been in place, I think we can make progress towards that end.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm glad to hear that this is coming, and I'm glad to hear about it. And sometimes you just have to come here, have to wait. Before I was when I was coming with here, I walked to my house here. There was really bad smell in the air. I don't know if anybody you feel it, or anybody who were walking. And that is something that happens pretty often. And it's been a word. I don't know if it's coming from down. Now, I don't know if it's coming from Jeffrey, and that this is one coming. And I haven't heard many times, because I was very important. So those are the kind of things that we do to one. You just can walk out there and go to the side and see that behind it. You want all those things around. So you can go on this side and grab a little bit and see how much is up for them. So, I mean, when we have this everything up front, I mean, we can share. And we're not seeing we're working together. We will start in at one point. How much have the community? Enough to see something happening. Thank you.
So we start, okay, we're going to start and I don't know right now, but we've heard the concern about that as well, in terms of how do you
compensate people from participating. When it comes to federal dollars, I will just be honest with you, there are lots of guidelines and strings attached to how you can spend federal dollars. So that's a constraint we have.
Okay, so, by hearing your presentation, thank you. It's more or less like, we're hearing the same, same song. And why I say this, in 2017, I see you have a report of this, CAR, the, California Bay Area, project, the 617, we actually, the community actually selected several individuals. One is the late Dr. Clark, spearheaded, along with, myself and a couple of others was very involved with this vacancy selection and pointing out different places throughout the community of concern. In comparison, not just with North Richmond, but other communities that have refineries and what their statistics are, okay? To say that you have the information, what is going on here in the community by checking in with these different responsible entities that have did these surveys to get this information. The same as my colleague here is asking, what is the benefit for this? We've been at it since 2017. We've been to many meetings, sharing different things that are going on in the community, and it seems like nothing tangible is happening at this point. It is time for us to see something very viable, something of change. Now, to address your smell that you are smelling, it depends on the wind drift. And the problem is viola. Okay, it's viola. Viola is having the problem, okay? So during the wind shift, you will get these smells, okay? So a lot of our entities that we are noticing knowing that haven't failed, they have been checked. They have been notified. They have seen that they need to correct their action, what they have been doing. This viola is the one that's having the problem. The other thing is that I just wanted, to share, it is what is going to happen from the meetings that we have already entertained over the years. And it's the same information that we're giving you all, the same. My suggestion is to check in with the ones that have already studied and got our input from these meetings, and then come back. It's not like you're starting from scratch, but come back where you left off, what I'm saying, in order for us to see something tangible. Because it's really tiring to hear the same old, and I'm not putting it on you, but hearing the same old song, and nothing really is happening, and you got the history and you got the information already. And to come in and see that it's under California legislation, yes, it's California legislation, the money is coming down, but it's the power is the same old. We need to see action, we need to see something taken care of, and to know directly what is going to be done to benefit the community. So with that, if anyone else has anything to say, I just wanted to put that out, and we're gonna cut it due to the time. We have other things, but it was wonderful. I just wanted, your presentation was great, but I just wanted to let you know, people are holding back information from us, but because it's already been there. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize the fact that after listening, sitting here, I know that there's a lot of frustration on this topic. Ultimately, I think that it's good to get this done if it means that it will actually lead to action. And considering the fact of 2017 and now being in 2024 and having that gap of 7 years, I'm interested and curious to know what the results are and will be. And so if it means if, you guys have to come to my house and check something out or ask some questions, I'm willing to do that for the benefit of the greater community. Ultimately, considering the fact that CTP and EPA will use this, final report to enhance, the permit decisions pertaining to North Richmond. And so if we have specific indicators of the negative impacts that these facilities are having and perhaps avoid future permit approvals, then great. But if it's not having much of an impact, considering analyzing these results with another facility in a different part of the country or in a different part of California, then it's normal, right? Or what we consider normal. But I'm curious to know what the results will be and how we can use those to define the permit being talked about at the moment.
Real quick, will there be any results that could lead to property value? If the reports come back and they're so negative, this is so toxic that the value of our home go down big time. Is that a possibility?
I do not envision that, and the reason I was if we go up to how environmental law brings the record shows how heavily impacted this community. If anything, if as a result of any efforts we can collectively do and make up the next term. So to answer your question, and this is just my opinion, based on the current virus score screening, it shows that North Richmond is in 96th percentile. So it shows how disadvantaged this area is compared to other areas. So I don't envision a result from that it could get, it would lead to a reduction in property values. What I was just going to say is, if as a result of this effort, that we can continue to improve the lives of the community here, and set a trajectory that gets at some of these impacts that we've seen over the many years, if anything, that could only lead to a rise in property value. That would be my crystal ball on that, but I can't make any guarantees or promises. But I don't think the session is going to reveal anything that all of a sudden is going to cause a big drop in property value.
So, just the last, for the last comment, I guess institutions and studies still harp on like no changes have been done, and there's been many changes being done, a lot of places that are polluters are really getting the hammer, so the changes are being made. Even looking at the emissions, that is happening now. We're going to EV, at this point. So things are changing. So to put forth and for people to keep the language going that we're still down, things are changing at this point. And it's from the effort of community and people coming together and hearing the voice and making these changes. So I just wanted to put that out there also, And the other, one other thing, and I know my colleagues, they cut it, but the other thing is a continuum for North Richmond to be so disadvantaged. I mean, we have households that have several cars, and it takes money to buy a car, okay? You have homes that are taken care of, there's no shack out here in North Richmond. You cannot find a shack, that's a no-no. That's a digging, knockdown structure. We don't have that. So we have homes that are here in North Richmond, and they're not disadvantaged. Some of these houses out, you can pick them up and put them anywhere. It's just a location at this point. But I talked to Supervisor Joy about that, and he totally agreed with me. Let's change this language, keep saying the language of disadvantage. Because we have educated individuals out here, okay? And that's stereotypical of the last 20 years or 30 years to keep individuals thinking it's so disadvantaged. And it's not on paper, not on paper. You really look at it, it's not on paper. So I just wanted to put that out there also. So I'm done.
Honestly, I appreciate that comment, and I think it's on point.
I appreciate that feedback and that comment. When I use the word, that's kind of the lexicon of federal executive orders and so on, but that's a very important observation to make, which is no, why is that label being assigned to us? So I will take that back to the team and say, you know what, I think we need to think of a different way of how to engage without kind of having that label. So I appreciate you being honest with me and just giving me that straight feedback.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
And thank you for your time. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Okay. And thank you for your presentation, you and your colleagues. Okay, thank you, everybody. We're gonna keep it moving. My colleagues are ready to get out at 7 o'clock, so I'm not gonna hold them against me. So I gotta help everybody. So with that, we've had all our presenters. Thank you all so very much. And we're gonna go into item 7 real quickly. I don't think everybody is here, but we're gonna keep it moving. So do we have anyone from the City of Richmond Service Department? If we do, could you speak up now, please? And let's hold it down real, only just one. No one? No. Okay. All right, how about you three neighborhood council? We have Beverly and myself here as our president on. Marina Brown. No, Marina isn't there also, probably next time. Okay. Do we have housing authority? Do we have housing authority?
Good evening, everybody. Sorry, my video's off. I'm having a little internet issue. But I just wanted to give you an update. Last week, we got a final approval from HUD to go ahead and proceed with the sale of the below market units that we did the request for proposals back in August, and made some offers back in September, and HUD finally gave us the approval to go ahead and proceed with the transaction. So that's in process. And in the meantime, we're also working on getting the RFP for the main campus drafted up. And at the same time, we're also working on getting the market rate units on the market. So we'll be reporting back to the MAC probably next month about the progress of that. I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Yeah. In working, maintaining the property, who is in charge of it, or who do I need to speak to today? Last night I had photographs of the company that they work for you guys. That they did already on the corner of Sterling Market. They came over. They cleaned up the backyard, but everything in the front yard, they blew off into the street. Now I had to personally go there and talk to them. This is the second time they did it, so I explained to them. When you go into the street, the wind blows it on my side of the street. My mom already has enough to clean up without adding on to her cleaning up the street. They're supposed to clean up. If they need to blow it into the backyard. Don't blow it into the street so you can blow across the street so someone else has to clean up. Because like I was saying, I don't want to have to argue with people who's supposed to be doing their job. So who's responsible over the people that clean up? Because like I said, I picked pictures, they license plates, I talked to 3 of them, and the last one which was on December 13th, the gentleman told me he was running behind schedule. That's the reason why he did it. To me, that's no excuse. I don't want to have to do testing again because like I said, My mom already has enough to clean up just in the street, between the trees, blowing around the street. She does not need people who are paid to clean up the yard, blowing into the street, because it's easier for them to move on to whatever next project.
So, I'm pretty sure you talking to Mr. Boss Man right now. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear anything he said. The audio is really bad.
But I'm gonna sum it up. You have individual contractors, it might be under, housing authority or maybe subcontractors. But as they clean up the area of one particular place, over here on Market, they were cleaning up, they had cleaned to the back, and as they were running short on time, they actually used their board and they blew a lot of the debris out into the street, which came of the property. Therefore, had a community person actually addressed them about it, and what they got, the answer he got from them, that they was running short on time, okay? When we have individuals come up, what we are expecting, when they clean up these areas to pick up and not blow out, pick up, okay? So you are the boss man that has these individuals to come out and pick up these properties, is that not, or is that so, or is it not? Hello?
You know, Annie, I'm sorry. It's really hard to understand. I put my phone number in the chat. If somebody can call me directly, you know, I'd be more than happy to, you know, help out here, but I can't hear what's being asked or said.
Okay, no problem. I wanted to talk to you personally anyway, but I would bring that up to you when I have this conversation with you, okay?
Okay.
A call from me tomorrow, and I will reiterate what I just said, and then, we can give the results to everybody next month, you know, on the conclusion of what has come out of this conversation. Okay, anyone else? Because I know we're running. No? Okay, let's keep it moving. Thank you, and I'll be going to be hearing from you, okay? I think that's on. So next will be okay, yes.
Hi, everybody's doing. I'm kind of moving. I work for the CACC. I'm also part of community building engagement. So a quick little update. We have countless of programs run out of the center, food pantries, hot meals every day, and countless of others. Last month we had about 817 visitors come to the center for those programs. Just want to put it out there that you know somebody in need, please have them come here. Program runs Tuesday through Friday, and I believe 9 to 11. All right. For the community resource center, they had 154 visitors during the month of January. Continue to grow. We've got a lot of meetings taking place there from the community leaders on a daily basis. They're helping out with housing and different programs. So definitely visit our community resource center located at 1540 Great Jackson Way. The building on the end of the apartment. Later this month, also on the resource center, we have a dedicated class supposed to take place either the 20th, 21st, and 22nd at the time. But dedicated class for young kids, individuals during that time. So. I'm also the mitigation community service coordinator. So last month, we had the public sanitary services report over 700 occurrences of illegal dumping throughout North Richmond. I also do my own investigation, so I go after them and also kind of look at things. I also reported 167 occurrences of illegal dumping out there in the streets. So we're constantly fighting the battle. In our North Richmond Green meeting, which I implore North Richmond residents to get involved in, and also our task force walk that we have. We have the sheriff department and county and city code enforcement and other individuals that make litigation are making impact throughout the community. It's a great time for me to have discussions with them, discuss what's going on with their neighborhoods. So we just want to throw it out there that our meeting is, North Richmond meeting, North Richmond meeting is the first Wednesday of every month, from 9:30 to 10:30. And our task force walk is the second Thursday of every month, and that is from 11 to 12. So if you are interested in coming, I handed out the North Richmond Green newsletter, which I mailed out 168 also to other individuals, but we have delivered over 1,200 newsletters throughout North Richmond. And I just want to let you know that those meetings are on there. If you're interested in being a part of those meetings, that's one of our focuses, getting more North Richmond residents involved in our project to keep North Richmond clean. It can't be done by just us. We need everybody to be involved. So if you're interested, send me an email. My information should be on there. Send me an email, and I'll shoot you guys. All right.
And thank you, you have done a fantastic job. You have been doing a fantastic job. Okay, so we have Richmond, Land? No, no one? Okay. How about corporate Richmond?
You can get my email from Tanya, and Tanya, if you don't mind, put it in the chat. The Cooperation Richmond, is incubating a worker-owned cooperative grocery store, and we have applied for CHCC's RFP. So we are recruiting worker owners to help us co-create and develop this grocery store. We also are incubating with Richmond Land in partnership at Tiny Home Eco Village, which will be developed right in front of Brady Elementary. And we are looking for residents to help us co-create and develop that project as well. I think Richmond Land was one of the organizations who received, one of those lots from Housing Authority. So we're excited to help them develop their housing cooperative model. So we are looking for residents, so please get my email and get in contact with me if you are a North Richmond resident who is, wanting to share this information.
Okay, thank you, fantastic job. Okay, and last but not least, Urban Tilt.
Good evening. Congratulations, Princess. I love to see that the cooperative businesses are coming online. And just a heads up, we are going to be having, we have one of the buildings on the farm is going to be using it's going to be a timber frame building. And so we have a Black-owned company coming, and we're going to have a event that shares how to have a construction cooperative, their construction cooperative. So we'll have that for the young people and then anyone else that's interested. But let's see here, start at the top. So I invited you to our Black History Month events on February 17th, February 24th, and February 29th. Also, I wanted to let, if there are any we have something for Iron Triangle homeowners, has to do with irrigation. You can contact me if you're interested, if you know of people. Let's see, we're hiring. Our website is urbantilth.org. Also, if you need help with your fruit trees, the Orchard for All team is up and running, whether we gave them to you or not. The construction is coming along well. And we have some foundations for several of the buildings in phase 2. And you should be expecting a postcard from us this month, a magazine next month. And I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and you are doing a fantastic job. Okay, with that, we're gonna close this meeting out in the honor of Ms. Corinne Sane. And I know she's up there, very happy to see that we're still pushing and still doing it. But upon that, we're closing this meeting out in her memory. Okay? Thank you, and we have now